Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Oscar Michael, co-founder of Africa Communicate, and I run programs. I coordinate the activities here, and I'm really excited to have you join us on this session. Yeah, and guess who is with me? No one other than Guy Yug Blomberg. Good to see you, sir.
Great to see you as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So yeah, for everyone out there who doesn't know Guy is like Guy is the guy behind the games industry. Yeah. So if you've ever heard about when it comes to creating events that actually bring stakeholders in their industry together, when it comes to organizing activities, when it comes to moving business initiatives, strategies forward, Guy is mostly the one behind the scenes doing all of this. If you've heard of games industry gathering, this is your guy.
It's
So
wonderful.
yeah.
I love it.
So I would today we're going to be discussing about the importance of collaboration in the games industry. But before we do that, I want Sky to introduce himself. Yes, please.
Sure. No, I mean, that was a wonderful introduction from your side of things. I love it. I guess I'll kind of just give a little bit of a background to me. I've worked in the games industry for almost 20 years now. I've worked as a game developer, as a publisher. I've started up a couple of video game bars. I've worked as a journalist in media. And for about the last decade, I was working in events. So I oversaw a lot of the content around the PAX consumer shows in North America and Australia, worked on the EGX events over in the UK and Europe, and bounced around and tried to launch events, gaming events all over the place. Worked with groups like GamesIndustry.biz on their B2B networking events, and eventually now I'm consulting for a bunch of different companies. I run the Acceler Diamond Club, which is for games industry to get together, and I also run the Games Industry Gathering, which is a group of about 3,000 gaming industry professionals that get together on video chat just to network and hang out. And really, my focus has been about bringing the gaming industry together in different ways, whether it be with consumers or with each other, and trying to get people in different countries and different cultures and different aspects of the games industry to interact with each other. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm also a very amateur card magician. So there's that.
You get there. I believe you would. I said, guys, you see that this is your guy. You see what I'm saying, Licky?
I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy that does these things. There's plenty of folks out there, but I do love bringing people together.
Yeah, awesome. And I must say, it's really, really, when I got connected with Guy, I was like, oh, because it's someone I've been, you can see that he's a very busy individual. And what that means basically, it's very, very difficult to get a hold of him. And when I got connected with him, I was like, yes, finally. And I can tell you, when it comes to connecting people in the industry, 120% is really super big, and it's really been helpful to the team at Africa Communicate. He has helped us put this together. He has helped us even fine tune our vision. And yeah, before I go longer.
No, it's been wonderful. Being involved and watching your progress, putting this together, putting an event together, is no easy task. So congratulations on you and the team on this, and congrats for the rest of the event, man. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yeah, let's go into the discussion for today: the importance of community and collaboration in the gaming industry. When you look at the African gaming industry, what can we say? There are lots of communities. There's individual national communities. There's some that don't consider themselves national or open. But then we notice that when it comes to collaboration and actual community interaction, there is a lot of issues which we're trying to tackle as well. But so we have Guy here who has a community of game developers out there, and he's going to be taking us through some things, telling us some things about how to build communities, why they're very important. So, Guy, to kick off this conversation, let's start with games industry gathering. Would love to get how did this come to be? What was the idea? Yeah.
Sure. Well, the pandemic. The pandemic happened, and a lot of people were used to going to events in person, whether it be consumer events or or B2B events, and the pandemic stopped all that. And all of a sudden, we were left with the connections that we'd already made before the pandemic, or the people we already knew, and without really an outlet to network or connect with people that we didn't already know. It's hard enough just trying to meet new people in the games industry and outreaching via Twitter or LinkedIn or things like this. It's doubly hard when you don't even have that physical capacity to, go and see someone's talk and then walk up to them afterwards and ask them questions, or go to an event that's specifically about a specific area of game development. So the games industry gathering, or the gig as I like to call it, was a response to that. And it's just a digital Zoom-based networking event that happened every week. It would bring people from all aspects of the games industry, developers, publishers, journalists, content creators, allow all of them to join it, and then put them into randomized breakout rooms every 4 to 6 people that ran for 20 minutes at a time. And really, this is just trying to replicate the environment of a hotel lobby or maybe a bar where people would go and socialize and network and mingle and meet other people that are outside of their existing social circles, but doing it in a digital way. And that seemed to resonate with a lot of people, and it's grown significantly, and here we are.
Wow, that's really cool. I think the pandemic really, really opened doors for so many people because when we look back at Africa Communicate as well, it started in the pandemic basically. So we've been building up all of these plans and all, and then during the pandemic, there came the question: engage game developers all across. And up till now, virtual events was not really a thing on our end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people were like, nah, this is not going to work. Africans don't have internet. We have internet. Just that sometimes it messes up. Yes, I agree. Africans don't have power supplies. I've experienced that, but then you get the idea. And boom, just like that, the first event we had about a total of 200 creatives come together and interact, and that's really cool. And I am really also excited to see that the pandemic opened doors, not just for Africa, but to see that this idea came out of it to really connect people. That's really, 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 really interesting.
Yeah.
And,
I think the other thing that's really interesting and what's happened during the pandemic via all of these virtual events, from the one that you're doing to everyone else trying to do a virtual event, is it's given people in other countries, other regions, the ability to connect with people that they may not have been able to before, because buying a plane ticket and accommodation in San Francisco to attend GDC is expensive. It's not cheap, and it can be prohibitively expensive for most people. And I think a lot of the people that were used to doing physical events got used to doing virtual events, and then got used to meeting a whole bunch of new people in the games industry in so many different countries that they never would have before. And that, I think, has been one of the best things to come out of events in the pandemic, is the ability for people to genuinely meet and connect, regardless of what country they're in.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I completely agree with you. That's something really true. Because take, for example, all of us in Africa, for us to attend this kind of event, I think I attended Pocket Gamers, Women in Games. All of this moved virtual, and that gave us the opportunity to also engage with these people. And that's really, really super. So now, from your perspective, I know a lot of people have ideas about what community is all about or so. But then especially in the games industry, why would you say community is important? Why is community key? Why is communication key in the games industry?
Yeah, I think the games industry, especially indie game developers and whatnot, it can be quite lonely and solitary. If you've got a small team and you're all working from home and you're all just focused on this game, it can be really hard to have perspective. It can be really hard to connect with the people you need to connect with, and it can be really difficult. I think that more so than most other industries that I've been involved with, the games industry has the ability to really help each other. Like if you are in a group with a bunch of other game developers, usually they're not really competitive. It's much more collaborative. Everyone kind of wants everyone else to succeed, to win. There is enough space for everyone, and I think even just from a mental health point of point of view, it's important for people to connect and have that community. I think the other really important aspect is so much of the opportunities that come your way, whether that be meeting the right artist for your game, or maybe connecting with someone who represents a publisher or things like this. A lot of those connections really only happen if you're part of these larger gaming communities or groups. I would say that at least 80 to 90% of all the opportunities that have happened in my life have come about not because I've actively had to contact people. I have absolutely done a lot of that, but most of the success has actually come from right place, right time, and being prepared, but being part of these communities and groups to meet those people and talk about the particular things. I think that that's probably one of the most underrated and important parts of being part of a community.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. 130%. In Africa, for example, when you say the game industry can be solitary, like it really, really is in this area. And I can see some people in the chat section saying, "For real." And someone says, "True." Yes, yes, yes. And please, if you're since I can see people watching and commenting. If you have questions for Guy, please feel free to drop it in the chat section. We're going to pick that before we round up. And yeah, good for watching. And yeah, back to you guys. That
Sure.
that is very, very true. Even where there is, I don't know. I think we're just creating the African game industry because I would say what we had before was independent game studios, and right now is when we're now beginning to see like a coalition, people coming together to form groups and all. We earlier had IGDA, but then we also had lots of groups on WhatsApp and all. But then the community was not something that was really, really out there and active. And yeah, so let me say, there's something you also made mention of. Yeah, Kizzy says preparedness plus opportunity really is important. And yeah, thanks so much for that. That's also why we're using Meet to Match so that people can start to learn how to connect because that's also something we really need to look at.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you speak of the of indie game developers, of course we don't have a triple A scene in Africa, not yet. We're getting there. But when you speak about indie game developer, indie game business, what comes to you? What's yeah? How would you explain that?
Oh, the definition of indie. Oh, that's the controversial term. I mean, technically, the definition of independent developer is someone that is independent in the control of their game, their product. However, you could technically call Riot Games an independent developer, really, and I don't think that really fits. I kind of think as an independent indie devs as developers that are independent, even if they have funding or publisher elsewhere, but they have kind of the spirit, the independent spirit. Their
Yeah,
focus is they want commercial success, but really the primary goal is to get this vision in their head out onto the screen in some particular way, shape, or form, no matter what. I think there's a
yeah,
particular attitude and spirit that encompasses the definition of indie games.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's really, really true. So, yeah, that's really true. And now, because we're focusing more not on the indie game side, but more on community and collaboration.
Sure.
Let's dig a little bit deeper into
Sure.
that. So one thing we've noticed, say for example, right now, for many developers, this is the first time they get into use a platform like Meet to Match. That's from Africa, and
Yep.
I've been hearing lots of people saying, "Oh, we." Someone reached out to me. Someone fixed a meeting. I've seen some people go crazy on fixing meetings, like, nice guy, click. Exactly. So, and this is an issue because I also had stakeholders reach out saying, okay, people need to know how to interact. And I would love to think that the way business is being run in the games industry is different from the way business is being run in the normal tech industry. Simple differentiator can be, say, for example, when it comes to investment in games, mostly publishers are the ones investing in game developers, mostly.
Sure.
Meanwhile, out there in the general tech space, you have VCs and what they call them, and the terms are always different. So now, for indie game developers, because we would still, I believe everyone will agree with me, we're a very young market, still trying to figure out what works.
Hmm.
What's that advice you would give to them? I know you've mentioned preparedness, but when they're going out there, seeing that we're still at a level where we can't, extent, most of our studios can't put our games as competitive with what is out there because of the resources we have access to. What
Sure.
advice would you give game developers in Africa or across in terms of seeking collaborations, partnership, and all?
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, so a couple of thoughts here, really. First of all, in terms of the community in Africa, and actually people collaborating, I think that there's, and what you're doing here is actually is great. And you made a point before of, wanting to actually get developers locally to actually connect and collaborate. I'm from Australia originally, and in Australia it was a very heavy indie gaming scene, and you had associations and groups that would bring them all together to represent them, so that they could then communicate, they could promote, they could talk about their products as a collective at a global level. So as opposed to one developer going over and getting a booth at GDC or something like that, it was a booth of Australian developers with 20 developers or something like that, and there was a strength in numbers and community. So I do think that the more you can build up this community of developers there, that you can have representation across the board and actually promote that at larger global events, the better you'll get communication coming back from the rest of the industry. Now, at a individual level with individual developers and people, in terms of outreaching, especially through Meet to Match, what's appropriate, what's the right things to say, what's the right things to ask when reaching out to publishers or investors, what's the expectations and things like this. Two bits of advice. First of all, there is a lot of resources out there to watch and read, and actually this event is a perfect example of, there will be talks and people giving advice on the best things to say, how to present your pitch, how to put it together, lessons that you can read and watch to make sure that you do a better job of communicating to the right people that you want to communicate to. So there's so many resources online, and actually since the pandemic, every developer conference has gone online as well. You don't need to fly to Croatia to go to Reboot or something like this. You can watch the content online. So consume that, watch and read as many articles as you can that talk about the best way and best practices to pitch your game, present your game, to talk to publishers, to talk to investors. So that's that bit of advice. And the last bit of advice I'll get is never be overbearing. Never kind of come in and be aggressive with your attitude. There is nothing wrong whatsoever with saying I don't know, or asking is this the right way to do it, or being very polite in contacting someone and say, hey, look, we're looking for support down this path. Are you the right person to talk to? What kind of information are you looking for? Asking questions and almost being humble in that respect is going to get you a much better response than just sending an email or a message saying, aggressively asking for money. And it's a great way to learn the kind of things that you need to provide, or you should be saying as well. I know a bunch of publishers and investors that get hit up constantly, all the time. But if you can be quite polite and honest, and request information, and also don't pretend to know what you don't know. Just ask those questions. You'll find that most people are actually more than willing to help. If there's one great thing about this industry, especially at the moment with publishers and investors and other very successful developers. Everyone really does want to help build up the next generation of game developers, and also help devs that are in other countries that haven't really gotten as much of a shot before. So especially during this pandemic, everyone's been a lot better at actually responding and reaching out and helping. So how's that? Is that helpful? I hope that's helpful.
Very, very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. I really loved every point you made mention of. And there's one more I want to pick on. There's
Sure.
one that really struck me, and that's in the issue of funding. And I would love to get your view on this, because in Africa right now, true story, first fund for game developers across Africa came out this year. That's in the form of an African Game Developer Prototype Fund. And that's the first support, followed by Skill Fabric, who is also supporting African game developers.
Awesome.
So now there's always this comparison, because having a career in game development in Africa is almost like setting yourself up for a lot of heartbreak issues. Again, there aren't jobs. Investors, local investors don't really understand the market, so they are skeptical about investing. Local publishers as well, I feel like this is a perspective, are not really forthcoming and interacting with many of the local game developers. And but out there's this notion we have that there is funding and lots of opportunities out there. And we see some of them: prototype grants, government grants, community grants, stuff like that. But it's not available to us on this side. Now, what I've also come to understand is there are lots of game developers out there. And the truth is, in so many cases, even those funds are not enough for them. So as opposed to us now looking out there to get resources in terms of funding this time from out there, I think another better strategy would be for us to look inwards to see how we can support and build our own ecosystem. So we would need some guidance. I know these things took a lot of years to set up, but then the good thing is, with your support, your mentorship, your guidance, I think Africa can also speed up, and they don't have to go through that whole rigorous process. Just as you said, ask questions.
ask a lot of questions, and I will say to your point there, like you've got to hustle as much as possible. You've got to do everything you can to get funding or support. It's hitting up publishers or hardware companies. It's really outreaching as much as possible to get support. But if there is ways that you can support each other in the local scene there, even if it's not financial, even if it's just support or recommendations or software or help with connecting people to each other, really having that internal network locally is so important. And in terms of getting publishing or funding externally or at a global level, the good news is that most publishers and most investors are less interested in where the game comes from. They're more interested in the quality of the game itself. The challenge is, you've got to get the game to that point to actually present it, to then get the funding. You're not going to get the funding until the game is at a certain point to show off. But there are other global events you can take part of. The Pitch Your Game hashtag just happened recently. That's a great way to get some exposure. If you've got something that looks interesting, a concept, you can get more recognition for that through that. There's a lot of game dev contests that exist out there that you can take part of to get connected with publishers and investors and get some cash prizes as well. There are a lot of things out there. You just have to look.
Yeah. Thanks so much for that. For those just joining, this is Guy Yug, and he's the guy behind Games Industry Gathering, as well as many other events and activities happening out there in the games industry. And we've been talking about community, we've been talking about collaboration. And just to do a quick recap, there's some key points he has said. I see Eric Namene says very helpful, nice, and noted. Thanks so much for that. Really good to know you guys are following. This is really, really cool. Yeah, because sometimes it's scary you feel you're just talking and no one is listening. But these feedbacks are really, really cool. And some key things Gaia said today: be prepared and look out for opportunities. So when you are meeting up with people, when you're going out there, be prepared. Also, it's much more better for us to really group ourselves as teams, whether national associations or any form of teaming when we're going out to event, because that shows a stronger front, that shows structure. And we know that right now in Africa, we can't say there's one firm structure. We have lots of structures coming up and we're trying to stabilize them. And also, when it comes to funding, one word. And there are lots of things he said, but I'll choose one word: hustle. You have to hustle and make sure your game is up to that quality that people would want to invest in. I know this is difficult, but yeah, guys, I personally believe we can do it. That's why I'm in this industry. If you have questions for Guy, please feel free to drop it. And yeah, so that we can take that place. If there's any question, I don't know if there's anyone. But yeah, so Guy, just let's just see maybe a minute or two if they have. But then on a final note, um, this event is going to showcase basically, especially of this week. This week is mainly focused on showing what African game developers can do, where we are going to. So I really do hope that you'll get some time. Then on Meet to Match, there's this African showcase. You'll see some games built by African game developers so that you can go through. On Saturday, there's also going to be like an arc pitch. So that's something really, really cool. And this is a young industry. So I know you've said quite a lot, but then I would love to just ask you to tell us one more time, because we are young as an industry and we're thriving, we're pushing. What is that one thing every game developer, every indie game studio, because we don't have triple A or double A yet, but yeah, what's that one thing um, that they should know
That they
about the industry? Yeah.
the one thing that they should know about the industry, you have to be passionate about what you're doing to stay in the games industry. There are definitely opportunities and there are success stories financially and whatnot, but you have to love making games. You have to love what you're doing. Don't be in the games industry unless you love working in the games industry, creating games and being involved with other people that are creating games. That needs to be your core passion and interest above everything else, because that will drive you to keep pursuing it and to keep driving for that level of success. So stick with it.
Awesome. And one last question from Mkize. Sorry, yeah. So he says, just curious. It seems this generation is fortunate in that every game from pixel to 2D and 3D is becoming successful. Does that mean there's no set formula?
Honestly, it completely depends from year to year, to console to region to region. You know, what is successful in China, for example, where it's mainly focused on mobile and PC games or MMORPG games, is different to North America, where it's very FPS console-based games. Really, what is on trend at the moment? The other challenge is if you start making a Fortnite kind of game right now, by the time it's finished development in 3 years' time, that might not be the popular gaming type that everyone wants to play. My advice to you, to be honest, is try and create a game in a particular format that is of interest and passionate, and that you're passionate about, interest to you, and move down that path. If you try and chase trends, you might miss the mark.
No, that's really cool. Thanks so much for this, guys. The last question there says, how do we get connected? I can answer this. Basically, if you want to see these events, just go online, search on our Discord server as well. We do our best to also push out these events once we get across. And there are even some Discord bots as well that push out this event. So we'll do our best to connect you with them, from Pocket Gamers to, and there are lots of event platforms, even the ones where our events are listed on. You could check that out and pull through. And Guy, Thank you so much. This was really lovely.
Awesome, absolute pleasure. If anyone, I'm around at Meet to Match for the entire of this event, so I'm available for meetings. You can hit me up on Twitter at Yugstar, YUGSTAR, and mate, good luck for the rest of the event. Congratulations on pulling it all together.
Thank you. Do have a lovely. Is it morning there or
It's
afternoon?
it's 11 a.m. in the morning here in New York. Yep.
Okay. It's 5 p.m. Yeah. So.
Good luck. Yeah.
Okay then. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.